You're not really experiencing Tokyo if you don't do these things. Now, a lot of people, when they're traveling to Japan, they want to be a tourist. They want to go to all those touristy sites. For example, the robot restaurant, all of the shrines, Harajuku, Shibuya Crossing, probably one of the most iconic places in Tokyo. And I completely respect wanting to be a tourist in Tokyo, especially if it's your first time. But whenever I travel somewhere new, I don't necessarily want to be a tourist. There's something so fascinating about going somewhere and living as a local and being able to do things that locals do on the regular. And so while I was living in Japan, I really made an effort to assimilate as much as possible and do things that most Japanese people would do instead of the touristy thing to do. So if you also want to live like a local in Tokyo, assimilate in some kind of way, I made a list of things that you are able to do. They are completely foreigner friendly and you don't necessarily need to know Japanese to do any of these things. But I think each experience really gives a good example of what local Japanese life really is if you're living in Tokyo. So here are a few things you can do to experience Tokyo like a native. The first thing on my list is going to an izakaya. Now, izakayas are basically the bars of Japan, like restaurant slash bar. They're mainly known for their drinks, somewhere where you can hang out and drink, but they also serve food as well. Mainly yakitori, which is skewered meat. If you're able to find a very traditional izakaya, I highly recommend trying to go to one of those. However, there might be a language barrier because the really traditional ones probably don't even have an English menu. My recommendation is going to Torikizoku. Now, Torikizoku is a chain izakaya, especially well known in Tokyo. Like, they're probably almost as common as finding a Starbucks in America. They are pretty popular, so if one is full, you can usually just walk down the street and there's another one. But these are very foreigner accessible as well. It's a place where I would go after language school with all of my friends, you know, after we had a big test or something. But ordering food is all via a touchpad and they bring it out to you. They have Japanese and English menus and other translations as well. So I highly recommend checking that out. It's really just a great place to chill, hang out with friends, and drink. The next must-do thing on my list is going to a festival. Now, most of the festivals are held in the summer. Obon is probably one that you have heard before. So if you are in Japan between July and September, that's probably the best time in order to see fireworks, see some of the parades and some of the festivities that a lot of the festivals hold. But depending on where you are in Japan, there are festivals year-round. I know the Penis Festival is something that is very exciting to a lot of people. That's actually not in Tokyo though. You kind of have to travel a ways to get to it. And another thing I would highly recommend is if you are in Japan for cherry blossom season, make sure to participate in Hanami. Basically, when everyone goes to the park during cherry blossom season and has a picnic under the cherry blossom trees. Everyone brings snacks or takeout and drinks and kind of just enjoy the weather, enjoy the beauty and scenery, and obviously get drunk. But I feel like being a part of that atmosphere too is very eye-opening, very ingrained in the Japanese culture as well. So if you have an opportunity to do that, I highly recommend it. Next on the list is something that we can all be excited about. Limited edition fast food. Now, it seems like every fast food chain has some kind of limited edition menu, limited edition item, and it varies depending on the season, depending on if there's some kind of event going on in Japan at the time. But it really keeps people on their toes. Everyone really wants to try the new and great thing that comes out in Japan, whether it's a Starbucks drink, whether it's a new hamburger at McDonald's, whether it's the freaking weirdest pizza flavor at Pizza Hut. And I wouldn't say this is like ingrained in Japanese culture, but I do feel like it's a very popular thing, especially if you're able to do it with friends, whether they're Japanese friends or even your family if you're traveling with them. It's kind of a bonding moment, and I just think that's really cool. Also, for the content, because we do everything for the content here, right? The next thing on the list is missing the last train. And you might be like, why the hell would I miss the last train? That means I'm stranded somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with. Well, if Japan was more dangerous, I would say don't miss the last train at all costs. But even if you do miss the last train, there are so many different things that you're able to do in Tokyo. Tokyo is a city that really doesn't sleep. So I would say go ahead and pull that all-nighter. You'll be going to the clubs, you can do karaoke all night long. Restaurants and izakayas are open pretty late at night, if not 24 hours. And another popular thing to do is going to the konbini or convenience store, buying some alcoholic beverages and drinking them on the street. If you've been to Shibuya or Shinjuku at like 3 a.m., you definitely know what I'm talking about. But I don't know, something about the nightlife, it's like you're just able to meet people that you wouldn't meet during the day. Now, of course, I'm someone who definitely needs my beauty sleep, so I wouldn't really miss the last train on purpose. But if I ended up missing it and had to spend a night out kind of partying and having fun, I wouldn't be too mad about it. And finally, the last thing on the list is going to an onsen or sento. Now, very quickly, onsens are hot springs. They're usually a little farther away. You can't really find one in main Tokyo. Sento you'll be able to find because those are just public baths, basically to wash yourself. But I think gaining the experience of going to an onsen or sento is very ingrained in Japanese culture, Japanese society. And I'm not even talking about spending a night at a ryokan where you're able to get your own private bath. I'm talking about the public baths. Now, I think two of the reasons why foreigners don't necessarily partake are either, number one, they have tattoos, so it's just harder to find a bathhouse that will let you go in if you have tattoos. And number two, they're kind of shy. Maybe they're thinking like, it's not gonna size up, if you know what I mean. If you're worried about the tattoos, there are sites that list all of the onsens and sentos that are able to accommodate people that have tattoos. And if you're worried about the size thing, honestly, that's something that you kind of just need to get over. But I feel like you just need to jump in head first and try it. I'll be honest, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I don't know. I had a newfound respect from having that experience, and I would do it again. I would go back. So if any of those things weren't necessarily on your itinerary, maybe you're able to add them if they sound interesting to you. And a lot of these things are basically just coming from, you know, my experience living in Tokyo for a year. I would go to Torikizoku all the time and take my friends there. I held a big hanami during cherry blossom season. I made sure to get the Starbucks drinks, even if not all of them were amazing. The amount of times I did karaoke at 3 a.m. was, yeah, a lot. And even going to sentos with friends or after a badminton game. And I think I only went to one onsen because you kind of have to go up to a volcanic mountain in order to find one. If you have experience living in Tokyo or just being in Tokyo pretty often, let me know in the comments below what you like to do to like really experience Tokyo. Would love to know some things that aren't on my list so that I can incorporate it into my next trip. And to everyone else, happy travels and I'll see you next time. Peace.